All right, 10 o'clock. Pretty, huh?
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, 10:01, now I'm a minute late. Oh, so distracting. So there's one thing on the schedule today, on the official schedule, it's workshop grammar. I was thinking that today would be like a catch-all, any more grammar questions that folks have, but that's just the official schedule. If you also have questions about the upcoming problem-solving memo/letter project, we can talk about that too. So it's y'all's meeting. What do you want to do? I mean, if there's no questions about anything, then it'll be a short meeting, right? Don't want to waste y'all's time. Got any questions, any issues, anything that I can help you with this? Yeah, question.
Can you do 25 on the worksheet?
Sure. What's the topic? What's the subject? What's the
The
section?
verb and pronoun agreement?
Yeah, that can be tricky. Personally, I blame English. What was it?
5.
25. Oh, awesome. 25 is my favorite. My super favorite. It's kind of eclectic. So, the first thing to figure out is it correct as written? Each 2311 student who works ahead will increase his chances of doing really well. What do you think? Is that correct? Why not?
Because you gotta replace 2311 with day. Sorry. Replace the subject with day to see, or
They who works ahead will increase his chances of doing well.
Those.
I mean, yeah.
Those who work ahead? So if this said, those who works ahead will increase his chance of doing well.
Those who work.
Okay, so I'm asking, like, why is this incorrect as written?
Is his.
His, what's wrong with that?
Because there's not just one guide in here?
There you go. That's one thing that's wrong with it. Right. Just look around the room. I've been teaching here for now 11 years. And I've never had a 2311 class that's been all men, or all women for that matter. I had one that was close. Really close, actually. But never all. Right, so this is an incorrect pronoun. Now, here's the thing. If this were 1950, then 9 out of 10, actually 9.9 out of 10 people polled would say, like, what's wrong with that pronoun? I don't see anything wrong with that, right? This is not 1950. This is 2015. We have gotten smarter culturally. So, and it's just factually incorrect, right? Which for technical writing is a bad thing. You want to be factually correct, right, and clear. So, this has got to go. Does anybody think that it also disagrees in number? Because his is singular, right? Each 2311 student, you think that's plural? Each 2311 student? Let's take a poll. I don't know. Let's throw it to the crowd. Each 2311 student. Each 2311 student. And because remember my trick, right? Decide if it's an it or a they and replace it, and then say it again. Okay. Each 2311 student. Is that an it? How many people think that's an it? Be loud, be proud, I gotta count. Oh, you did. No, okay. One, I thought you were doing like the, okay, so be loud, be proud. How many people think it's an it? Don't look around the room, make your own decision. No. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 votes for a day. How many people think it's a day? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got to have some non-voters here, come on. Okay. Well, again, in any participating democracy, that's sort of what happens. I got it. Sorry about that. My boss apparently likes it when I keep the door closed. Okay, 9, 2, 5. Okay. Well, it's kind of sort of 50-50. So that must be confusing wording then, right? I mean, there's two ways to approach this. There's like, oh, I don't know, I'm unsure, I can't figure it out. Or, dude, how's about you word it more clearly, okay? If, for folks who think this is an it, how could that be worded more clearly to make it more clear that it is an it? The?
Each individual student?
Ah. Or we could go, the 2311 student works ahead. The 2311 student who works ahead. For folks who voted they, the 2311 student who works ahead, would that make you change your mind? The 2311 student who works ahead? Probably, it'd make me change my mind. Folks who voted for they, each individual 2311 student, would that make you change your mind? Each individual, would that make you change your mind? Still be a little on, oh, it would? Each individual 2311 student? If this were written, each individual 2311 student, would anyone vote that it's a they? You still would? You came up with, oh, because you were the it person, right, okay. Okay, so one person would still be like, no, I still think that would be a little confusing. Which one is more like what people would say? Each individual 2311 student, or the 2311 student who works ahead? Which one sounds less awkward? The 2311 student? Okay, then let's go with that. So let's reword it, the 2311 student. For two reasons. First of all, it's more clear, like that. Second of all, according to you folks, it's more everyday speech. It's less awkward. So, okay, that's like a win-win, right? So, imagine that this is written, the 2311 student. It's an it. It, who works ahead. It, who works ahead, will increase. So it works. Does that work? It works. Okay, so this verb agrees. Okay, great. It works in his. Okay, that's got to change. So what can we do with this pronoun? It's got to be singular.
His or her.
His or her. His or her. His or her chances of doing really well. Why his first?
It just sounds better to me.
Really? Because you hear that more often. Why does his always come first, usually? Because boys come first?
No.
That seems a little patriarchal.
Is that her or?
Why not her or his? Why not? Why does that sound less normal? Because it happens less. Why? Maybe because it's still 2015 and not 2035. Maybe. Right? So let's not start patting ourselves on the back about how gender neutral everything. No, it's not. Okay, so there's that. So his or her or his grammatically, yeah, they both work. You might want to make some conscious choices as to stylistically what you want to do. Is there anything else you can do here? Anything else?
Can you change it to like there?
That's interesting. How does that work? This is a plural possessive pronoun. How can we use that? How can we use there? See what I did there? Oh, I did it again. Why do you want to say there?
I don't know, because his or her is like,
It's awkward. Would you say that?
no,
What would you say?
there.
There. That's what you would say. That's why you want to say that. That's why you want to write that, because that's what you would say. But why would you say that? Or I guess the more proper question is, how could you get away saying that? Get away with saying that?
If it was plural in the beginning.
Well, okay, but we've already established we like it as being an it, right? Each individual 24, the 2311 student, this is an it. It's an it, there's no getting around that with the there. So how come you want to put a there, even though it seems on the face of it grammatically incorrect?
Gender neutral.
Hmm?
The gender neutral.
Well, it is gender neutral. It's got that going for it. Stylistically and culturally, I like that, right? It's less awkward. It's more like people talk. It's gender neutral. I like all that stuff. I just need an excuse to put it there. Here's an excuse. The 2311 student. Well, here's something else you can do. Why not this? The 2311 student works ahead will increase its chances of doing really well.
Doesn't sound like you're talking about a person.
It sounds like you're Vulcan or something, or you're a robot. Here's the thing, 2035, there might be robots in the room.
So instead of student, put students?
The 2311 students who works ahead, well then you gotta change that. You could do that. The 2311 students who work ahead will increase their chances. Sure, you could do that. But I'm making it harder, I'm making this an it. There aren't robots in the room yet, but when there are, we're gonna have to confront this all over again, right? Right. Yeah,
So for these, I'm confused. Is there like one right answer, or I'm assuming?
apparently not.
Yeah, there's many ways to do it. Okay.
Right?
All right.
Because here's the thing about life. It's not fill in the blank, dude. Right? So ideally, you want to go through life like thinking consciously about stuff. Like, for example, how come his always come first? What the fuck? Or, how come this sounds weird? And maybe, will there be a future when this doesn't? When it'll actually be necessary to use it? That's kind of fun to think about. Right? Here's why you want to say they. There. The 2311 student. Is the 2311 student a him, a he? Maybe. We don't know. Is the 2311 student a she? Maybe. We don't know. Or I would do that. Is she a she? Maybe. Is he a he? Maybe. Right. This is a editing notation for like flip those things. Is the 2311 student an it? And there might be a question in 2035. Right. So you have at least 2, if not 3 or more possibilities for gender. Right. So his or her or his, how many pronouns are there in either of those options? 2 pronouns, because there are at least 2 possibilities, otherwise known as a plural situation. So here's why you want to say there, or in the future, why you'll want to say its, maybe, if you live that long, for the robot, Uprising, maybe. Hope they're programmed well. It's a conceptual plural. It's a conceptual plural. Your mind says, well, actually, your mind just intuitively jumps to this, most people. Like if you poll most English speakers, not everybody, but most people would want to put there, just in everyday speech, because most people's minds just intuitively leap to, well, actually, there's two possibilities. So therefore, it's kind of a plural situation, right? And that's what, I don't know if this is like the grammar book technical term for it, but it's a term that I think fits. It's a conceptual plural situation. You have two possibilities for gender, therefore, if you're going to use a pronoun signifying a person, why not make it plural? Because they could be one of two options. Does that make sense? I think that gives you a grammatically defensible excuse to put there, which also conveniently is more like everyday speech, which is great for skimming, and also, I think, is also a nice way of like avoiding this whole, it's a way to fight the power a little bit, actually. What do you think about it? The patriarchal power. So, for example, still waiting for the first woman president. It's been a long time. Had a lot of presidents. Do you think it's just chance? So, was that helpful? So to get back to your observation, yeah, there is no one right or wrong answer. There are different answers that are maybe more or less, not correct, but more or less awkward, more or less clear, more or less grammatically defensible. Okay. Got a stretching or? I was just wondering if you had like one of those.
No.
Okay. Itchy head. I get those too. Yeah.
Could you say he who works ahead will chance?
He who works ahead. Well, then you're dropping information. Who is he? A 2311 student? If you drop that out of your rewrite, you're dropping information.
Okay.
He, 2311 student who works ahead. Sounds kind of biblically awkward.
Say he who works ahead in 2311.
He who works ahead. Okay, sure. So it's just advice that you're doling out to the men.
I was just wondering, you could say she who works ahead, but
Right?
it just already had his in it. So
Well, that would be the equivalent of putting it at the beginning. He or she 2311 students who work ahead. Or you just put there. That's what I would do. Just put there. That's what I would do. But I mean, here's the thing for the grammar worksheet. If you want to play around with like making the front end more clear, sure, you can do that too. I mean, it's not going to be grammatically wrong. It just might be less stylistically elegant than maybe monkeying around with the back end. Is that helpful? Okay, cool. Well, that was fun. We got to talk about robots. Love talking about robots. So did that? Okay, we're cool. Cool. Awesome. Any other questions about anything at all with the current project or the grammar worksheet? But remember, the grammar worksheet is not a, how do I want to word this? It's a means to an end. It's not an end in itself. Right? It's a means towards thinking more deeply about style and grammar so that you can think more deeply and consciously about the editing that you're hopefully doing on your problem-solving memo/letter project. And with practice on that, hopefully generalizing to your writing in general throughout your professional career, ideally. So it's a tool, not a means to an end. I think that's important to always keep in mind. So, any other questions? Should I put a time limit on, like, the period waiting for questions? Are there any others? Floor is open, plenty of floor.
Can we go over number 22 as well?
Sure. Is there anything in particular that has you kind of quizzical about 22?
Well, I did it, and I think it's just kind of sounds funny, but I think it's right.
Okay.
Not.
So
I
maybe
think
it's a
that
situation
22 is
where
right. I
what
think
you've
the
got
way-
is grammatically correct, but maybe not, maybe the stylistically best choice. Okay, the analysis of all the game tapes are conclusive. Do you feel comfortable with like just shouting out your answer?
Oh, yeah, I wrote
Okay.
that the analysis of all the game tapes is conclusive, because isn't analysis singular?
Well,
That's
let's
what
suss
it's
it out.
talking about?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
And you had is?
Mhm.
Is conclusive, okay. Did we have the discussion about like me being a holistic global thinker and all when it comes to like subjects, actions, and objects? Like here, no, okay, so let's go back to like a previous section of the grammar worksheet where I asked folks to like, what's the main subject, what's the main action, what's the, so subjects are the things doing the action.
Right.
The action is the action in the sentence, or actions, plural. The main action is the clearly most important. And then the object is what's getting acted on. So what is the action in this sentence? The analysis of all the game tapes is conclusive. What's the action?
Is.
It is. It's a state of being. I am standing. Standing is not the action there. It's me being in the act of standing. Right? It is awesome, whatever it is. Right? Then that means that the is a state of being awesome. Right? So analysis, analyze is a verb. Analysis is a noun. Right? So is the action. There's nothing else in there. Conclusive is the object. It's what the analysis is being, right? And then when it comes to the subject, here's what some folks will want to write. The analysis of all the game tapes. Because it's the whole phrase. If you just said the analysis, well, the analysis of what? Of all the game tapes. This is like extra information about which specific analysis we're talking about, right? Other folks, however, folks that had like a more old school grammar teacher, would just say analysis. Because they would say, no, that's like the root subject. So that's all I want to write down if you ask me to name the subject, right? Or some folks, probably more folks, would just say the analysis and stop there, right? But even if you identify the subject as just the analysis, again, this is not the object, this is not the action, this is additional information about the subject, right? So if I said, I want to know the whole subject phrase, which includes all the extra information about the subject, you would have to say the analysis of all game tapes, right? Okay, so, but to make the grammar more simple, we can say, well, let's throw out, to figure out the grammar, let's throw out this additional information, right? We still want to write it down when we rewrite it to edit it, because we don't want to drop any information because of the directions, but when we're looking at it conceptually, we're just going to ignore this, right? So, the analysis, is that an it or a they? Let's again do the vote. How many people think the analysis is plural? It's a they. How many people? How many people think it's an it? Well, there you go. It's an it. It's unanimous there. Unanimous. So it's really clearly an it. 19 out of 19 or 18 out of 18. I don't know how many people in here agree. If y'all were dentists, I would buy that toothpaste. So, let's get rid of all this and just replace it with it to say it out loud to try to figure out if the verb is correct. It is conclusive. Does that sound good? Okay, so it is conclusive. So let's rewrite it as, again, so we don't drop any information. The analysis of all the game tapes is conclusive. There we go.
It just kind of sounds funny too. But that's what I wrote down.
Okay, so how's about you decide that you want to make this clearly plural? How would you rewrite this so that it's clearly plural? Analyses? The analyses of all the game tapes?
Singular, it just is weird.
The analyses of all the game tapes? Yeesh. How's about I analyzed the game tapes. They are conclusive. Like that? Sure, let's do that. Here's the reason why the analysis of all the game tapes is complete. It's a passive voice sentence. Who's doing the analysis? We don't know. So it's passive voice. There's not a real subject there. So how's about we rewrite it? Because presumably, since it's not 2035, presumably there's a person doing this, not a robot. Let's assume that you're doing it. I analyzed the game tapes. They are conclusive. Or you could say maybe I analyzed the game tapes, they were conclusive. That might actually make a little bit more sense to put everything in the past tense, sure. Or you could just rewrite it as this is fine too, again.
I think I put was instead of is. Is that okay? I just felt like that sounded a little bit.
Was conclusive? Yeah, grammatically that's okay. And again, because you don't have any context for this sentence, I think you can get away with that on a grammar worksheet. Right? Now, if you had sentences before and sentences after that put this in the context of a narrative, then you would have to ask yourself, am I jumping around in time? And if so, then you would have a verb tense disagreement with time. Right? But yeah, I think you could make the command decision to change that to was if you want to for the worksheet.
What about were?
Were, no, it were conclusive.
Okay.
They were conclusive, it was
Okay,
conclusive.
got it.
Right. And again, this is where the trick, like, is it an it or a they? Okay, decide that, and then in your mind, drop everything else out and just say it or they. It were conclusive. Now, here's why a lot of people would have no problem with this sentence as it's written instinctively, because, well, I don't know, you might. This is a singular verb, and it's right next to a plural noun. Okay? Usually where people get in trouble with sneaky verb tense disagreement is the analysis of all the game tapes were conclusive. Some people would hear that as like, well, that's still a problem. Other folks, a lot of folks though, would be like, that doesn't sound bad to me. Because you have even though the subject is actually singular, the analysis, it's an it, you have a plural noun right next to that verb. So when you say it out loud, it kind of tricks your brain into plural noun, next word, plural verb, sounds okay to me. But it would be grammatically incorrect. So, is that helpful? Cool. That was fun. And timely, too. What with Patriots and all their cheating game capabilities. Never mind their,
Go Patriots.
never mind their football deflation issues. Injuries in
Coming
their
out from the game.
softballs. Come on,
I was gonna hate.
cool. Any other questions on anything else? Course related? Or that involves a Patriots joke that wraps back to the course? Anything? Yeah, question?
Are we allowed to ask you about the bonus? Because I have a
I don't
question
know.
of what the question means, like what you're, that's my game.
Is it course related?
Yes?
All right then. Let's talk about the bonus.
Okay,
What's your question?
okay, so you wanted the verb tenses, like, consistent.
Yeah, that would be grammatically nice.
So does that mean that you want them, like, in order of how they would have been done? So
Don't
it's-
think about what I want. Think about what the universe would like.
Okay,
What would a future reader of your stuff like? Would they like stuff that's unclear or clear?
clear.
Clear, okay. Would they like stuff that's like everyday plain wording that's easy to skim, or awkward, not everyday wording?
Everyday wording.
Okay, so everyday wording that's grammatically clear. Okay, so that's what we're shooting for.
Okay. Because like when I looked it up, like,
Are you comfortable throwing up what you got?
I didn't bring it with me, but I think I can remember.
Okay, are you comfortable just shouting out something?
Sure.
Okay, let's do it. What do you got for me?
Okay, I think I put Well, I actually put two different options, and I was gonna ask you which one.
Well, I don't know, pick one now, in the moment.
Okay, I looked at the bolts. They will need to be replaced.
Okay. Now remember, I'm a slow writer.
They
They will need?
Yeah. Or they need to be replaced.
Come on, Fricke. Will to be replaced. Uh-huh.
They are going to fail.
Are. Okay.
This last sentence is tripping me up, but I guess, I will think about replacing them.
Okay.
And I think in the other option, I made them all sound exactly the same.
I can't write that much.
Replace. You don't have to write it.
I will think about replacing. Hopefully I spelled that right. If I didn't, just imagine I did. Okay. First, before we get to like, is it grammatically correct and does it convey the same information, blah, 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 blah. First, let's attack the issue of, is it something that you would say every day, right? If you were just talking to somebody. I will think about replacing them. This is interesting. Why not write, I will be thinking about replacing them? Why not write that?
It just sounds weird to me. I will be thinking about.
Right. Here's why it sounds weird to say it out loud. It's what's called, I think the technical term for this verb, I will be thinking about replacing them, is the future infinitive. Like, it's going to happen sometime in the future. It's going to be lasting a long time in the future, right? Potentially, I could like be thinking about replacing them for an infinite period of time if I'm an immortal being, right? That's why it's called the future infinitive, I think. But also, it's just more complicated than it needs to be. Like at some point in the future, I will have a thought about replacing them. So I will think. So I will be thinking, that's not grammatically incorrect, right? But it's probably a less good choice for making things simple, straightforward, and easy to understand than making it what's called a future definite. At some definite point in time in the future, I will think. I will think about replacing them. Right? So I like that because you do that throughout with this, what you wrote down. I looked at. You didn't say, I will be looking at. You didn't say, I have looked at. You just say, I looked. Past definite. They will need to be replaced. You don't say, they will be needing to be replaced. Which actually a lot of Texans would want to say. Right? But most folks in most other parts of the lower 48 would not actually say that. They would say, they need to be replaced. They might even say, drop the will. They need to be replaced. Could you just say that? Okay, let's drop the will then. That's an extra word that's unnecessary. They need to be replaced. They are going to fail. You could say, they will fail. If they are going to, then that means they will. Say that. So you're saying here, once you get the grammar okay, and here I think grammatically it's fine, because again, getting back to your observation of like, is there a right or wrong answer? No, there's not, actually, most of the time. There's like a better or worse answer depending on what your situation is. And if your situation is, I want it to be clear and simple, then what you got here is quite clear, actually. It's pretty simple. It could be simplified even further. You could also say, I am looking at the bolts. They need to be replaced. They will fail. I am thinking about replacing them. You gotta put everything in the present tense. You can put it all in the future tense. I will look at the bolts. They might need to be replaced. They might be going to fail. Okay, maybe. I will think about replacing them. That actually might be kind of awkward, but grammatically it'd be fun. Or you can put it on the past. Most folks will probably instinctively want to do a mix of past, present, and future, just because they'll want to turn it into a story. Do that. Because again, there's no context for it, right? So. But here's what would not make sense. I will look at the bolts. They need to be replaced. That doesn't make sense, because you haven't looked at them yet, right? So that would be like fundamentally, logically inconsistent, and that I think would be grammatically wrong. Does that make sense?
I think that was kind of like the root of my question was, like, can you mix the tenses to
Sure.
make it make sense? Or
Sure.
does it all have to be
Again,
present
because you
or
have
all
the
future?
opportunity to, because you don't have context for this, right? You don't know what the larger story is, so yeah, you can do that. As long as they're not, again, logically inconsistent with like, well, I wouldn't know that unless I had done this previously, right? So, or I wouldn't be able to do that unless I knew this, which I knew from doing this action, right? So, is that helpful? But again, my general advice, and this gets back to using the grammar worksheet as a means to an end rather than an end itself, right? If it were an end in itself and be like, well, what's correct? What do I, Dr. Fricke, want? Here's what I would like. I would like it to be a means to an end to you thinking more, flexibly and clearly about the type of writing that you're going to be doing in the future. To be more clear on what are my writing goals going to be in the future. Clarity, easy to skim, easy to understand clearly. Then you've got a basis for making choices. So yeah, what you tossed up for me to write down, I think would be that'd be fun. I'd probably give that a +5 actually. This, like shortening this up, making this, maybe I give that a +6. I don't know. Sometimes I color outside lines. This might be a guideline. Possible. It's possible. It could be +1 to 5 points. That doesn't rule out the possibility it might be more than that. Maybe. Ooh, scary, scary. Cats and dogs sleeping together. Cool. Anything else? All right, awesome then. Let's adjourn. See you on Wednesday.